Hello friends and welcome back to the Dork Side. I'm the Dork on the road, and today it's 3 more simple ways you can improve your off-road motorcycle riding skills. I'm the Dork on the road and I want to be your internet riding buddy, so please consider subscribing. This is part 2 in a 2-part series where I kind of talk through simple skills that you can practice to improve your off-road riding ability, whether you're a new rider, an intermediate rider, or a veteran rider, because the basics are the basics, and the better you get at the basics, the better you will ride overall. Riding a motorcycle off-road is a little bit different than riding in a truck, or a side-by-side, or a quad, or even a 3-wheeler, because none of those things, except the 3-wheeler, tend to slide out from underneath you while you're riding. So when you're transitioning from street riding to dirt riding, it's a little bit more of a mental block for a lot of people because things are squirrely, things are difficult, things are funky, the surfaces are loose. It's a whole different set of riding skills, and we're going to talk about some of those basic skills that'll help you quickly improve your confidence and become a better off-road rider. The first simple way you can improve your off-road riding skills is learn to lean the bike underneath you. On the street, we stay parallel to the bike. We lean the bike into a corner, we lean with it. We lean the bike into another corner, we lean with it. You know why we do that? Because that is what we call a high traction environment. In a low traction environment, which is what we have off-road most of the time, in the dirt, in the gravel, in the mud, in the sand, we need to focus on keeping the maximum amount of weight on the contact patch. That is the part of the tire that is in contact with the ground at any given time. And the way that we do that is we keep ourselves perpendicular to the ground. If you're turning left, and the bike leans, you need to stay upright as the bike turns. It's a little bit of a dance. The bike goes right, I go left. Bike goes left, I go right. Because I'm trying to stay not perpendicular to the center of the earth. That's important to remember because sometimes you're on a hillside or a slant, but perpendicular to the ground, because that forces my weight directly down into the tire and ensures maximum traction for me and my motorcycle, which is very important on loose surfaces. If you look at our motorcycle tires, they're different than car tires. They are rounded, right? And your dirt bike tires have knobbies all the way around. Your adventure tires, your off-road motorcycle tires will have knobbies all the way to the edge. Those ones on the edge don't get used in street riding very often. But when you lean that bike underneath you, you get into those side knobbies, which are designed to keep your bike from sliding in the other direction. But to fully utilize them, you need to keep your weight over the top of them. You need to keep the bike underneath you, lean the bike underneath you. And this takes some doing to really get good at leaning it really far. But there's a ton of advantages to it. The first one is traction, like I just said 14 times. Second advantage is if you're on top of the bike and the ass end of the bike slides out, you're in a better position to recover your motorcycle. If you're over here and the bike's over here and that ass end starts to slide out, you're going with it. You are not in a position to get all the way back over to the right or whatever side and fix that. If you stay on top of the bike, it's a more neutral position. It gives you a much better chance of recovering from things that might otherwise be crashes, mistakes, recovering from sudden losses of traction, recovering from obstacles and things that crop up in the road, in the trail, whatever it is that you're riding. Staying neutral, staying above the bike is the best way to be prepared to deal with those things. It also will make it so that you can turn your motorcycle tighter. Your motorcycle has a limited turn radius. There's an angle beyond which you cannot turn your bars, but if you turn and lean the bike underneath you, that turning radius gets much tighter. You watch these guys doing 180 turns in the super tight, 2-track stuff. How do they do that without getting off their bike? And if you watch their body position, they get their butt and everything else out over the motorcycle as they turn it inside. They lean the bike, but they stay straight up and down from the ground. That is the secret to tight maneuvers, particularly at slow speeds, which is where a lot of us struggle. But the best way to do that is, again, keep your weight above the motorcycle. That is the move. That is the plan. That is how it's done. You watch really good riders and just watch their hips. They slide side to side. They make real-time adjustments to the trail, left and right all the time because they're trying to keep that bike neutral. You can change your direction without turning your bars by shifting your weight on the motorcycle. And the only way to do that is to stay upright and above your traction patch and lean the bike underneath you. So that's the first easy, simple way you can improve your off-road riding skills. Here's the second one for this video, and that is get farther forward. If you're struggling with traction, particularly on your front wheel, you are probably too far back on the motorcycle. I'm quoting and paraphrasing from my friend Todd, who also works for Ride Adventures, so I would encourage you to check out their training programs if you're trying to get some training and learn from cool people like Todd and Tyler. And hey, sometimes even I'm there, you know, if you want to learn from not so cool people. Not a commercial, just acknowledging where I've gained some of these skills. But anyway, there is a proper off-road riding position, and it is not the position we ride in on the road. It is not a comfortable position. That is not the point. We're not trying to be comfortable. We're trying to maximize our traction, at least if you're trying to ride hard. And that position is all the way forward on the bike, eyes up, elbows out. Get as far forward on the bike as you can. And there's two reasons why that's important. The first is it gets your weight up on the front tire, which maximizes your traction for turning the motorcycle. If you go back to my channel, to the early days, I used to fall down a lot. I used to crash a lot. And I look at those falls now, and every time I look at them, I realize what the mistake was. It's the same mistake. I was always too far back on the bike. I had front end washouts all the time because I didn't have any weight on the tire that was responsible for making the turn. So I'm leaning back and making an abrupt movement rather than using my weight to turn the motorcycle and leaning it. And the front tire does not go in the direction I try to turn it, and I crash. So the first reason to get forward on the bike is to get your weight over the tire that needs the traction most when you're trying to turn and steer and stuff. And brake, 70, 80, 90% of your braking comes from that front tire. So it's sort of important to have your weight on it. And two, that's how you use all of your suspension. This one took me a long time to realize, but when you're sitting back on the bike, you're only using your rear shock. Your rear shock sucks. There's only one shock. On the front, you've got two forks. If you're in the middle of the bike, if you're in a neutral position on the bike, your suspension can work a lot more efficiently, and you get bump absorption and other things from back and front of the motorcycle. And the way to tell if you're using your suspension correctly, if you're far enough forward on the bike, is to bounce. Because if you bounce and only the rear spring moves, you're not far enough forward. You want those front forks to be compressing too, and if they don't, then you need to move up. And moving up is uncomfortable. You need to move up so far on the bike that your junk, your special area, is up against the tank in most cases when you're sitting, and when you're standing, it is above the tank. The faster you go, the more you gotta lean forward. You can tell you're in the right position when it doesn't feel like you're constantly fighting to stay where you are. If you get far enough forward, then you won't be fighting when you accelerate the bike. Now, you're still gonna move. You're still gonna do that thing where I talk about shifting your weight on the bike. So if you know you're gonna brake, you lean back, grab the brake, because that way you're prepared, right, for what's gonna happen. In most cases, you wanna be very friendly, very intimately acquainted, shall we say, with your gas tank or your tank bag, up above or up against those things. And when you start to go uphill, my friend Alan, who I met at Turatech, put it best when he said, put your balls on the bars. And if you don't have balls, you get the idea. You put your favorite area up against the bars of the motorcycle, which means you're very much leaned very far forward in a very uncomfortable position. But that gets traction on the front tire. It enables you to use your full suspension. And that is going to maintain and maximize your control of the motorcycle, which is the goal when we ride off-road. So try to force yourself to sit a little farther forward, and you'll be amazed at how much better traction you have on gravel and loose conditions. There's an obvious exception to this rule, and that is, of course, when you're going downhill, when you want to shift back. But it all goes back to staying perpendicular to the ground, so of course you're going to shift forward and back. Riding a motorcycle off-road is not a passive activity, it's an active activity. So you're going to be constantly moving and adjusting to ensure maximum traction. But in general, on flat ground, you probably want to be farther forward than you are right now. And number six, the sixth tip, if you've watched both videos, easy way to improve your off-road riding skills, and this is a hard one, relax. Just relax. Woosah. This is a very counterintuitive tip. There's a lot of counterintuitive things about riding motorcycles. We have to counter and fight our instincts, and this is a big one. Because the first time you hit a gravel road and the bars start going, you're gonna be sketched out. You're gonna feel like, I've done something wrong, I have a flat tire, what the hell is happening? And your instinct is to fight it. If you fight it and stay stiff-armed, you are gonna crash. You have to let that baby wiggle. You gotta relax and let the motorcycle, which is equipped to go over obstacles, has the momentum, it has the gyroscopic stabilization from the engine. That bike wants to stay upright. That bike is capable of picking its own line, and all you have to do is pilot that thing. You're not fixing every single movement. You're deciding the general direction. This goes back to looking farther ahead too. You're not looking down and fixing everything right in front of your tire. You're looking ahead at where you want to go, and you're nudging the bike in that direction. Your bike knows how to stay upright. Go on the internet, watch any motorcycle video where someone falls off their bike at a high rate of speed. What happens to the bike? It keeps going. I've seen videos where it throws the rider off and pops back up and keeps riding. Because that bike has that stabilization. It will stay upright if you let it. Just let it. Just trust it. Trust it. You two are working together. Let the motorcycle do its part. Sometimes you got to let the bike pick its own line. Gravel's a great place to practice this. You can kind of feel it. going one side or the other, and you're picking the line in general. You're looking farther ahead and making sure you're going in the right direction, staying on the road. But the moment-to-moment decisions about what the bars do are made by the motorcycle and the tires and the suspension. So you have to let it do that. That sounds crazy. I'm not saying you go out there and let your hands off the bars. I'm saying you relax and let it move a little bit and resist the temptation to fight every single movement of your bike, because you're going to be tired and you're going to crash because you're going to be fighting against what the bike needs to do to stay upright. Sooner you learn to relax and let the bike wiggle and kind of pick its own line, the faster you're going to be able to go. You have to learn to relax, and that is maybe the hardest skill, but that comes with confidence, and your skill building will lead you to grow your confidence. So that's 3 more simple ways you can improve your off-road riding skills. I say they're simple, and it takes me 15 minutes to explain them, but I just want to make sure I'm saying everything I need to say and that you're getting the most in-depth version of these tips possible. Now, I'm not suggesting that you take all these things in your brain and go out and try to do them all at the same time. My advice to you is pick one tip, one skill, and focus on it for that day. Maybe even tell the people you're riding with, hey, today I'm going to focus on sitting farther forward and standing farther forward on the bike and see what difference I notice. Get out there, practice one skill at a time. Next ride, practice another one, and before you know it, you'll have mastered them all. You'll have a ton of confidence, and you'll be coming back here making comments about how dumb it is that I would suggest that anyone doesn't know how to do these things. Don't do that. Don't be that person. That was a little subtle hint. If you haven't yet, I'd invite you to check out part 1, skills 1, 2, and 3, the first 3 simple ways you can improve your off-road riding skills. And in that video, we talk about the advantages of standing up, of looking further ahead, and of using 2 fingers on the clutch and the brake instead of your whole ham fist like this. Old ham hands, as Wreck-It Ralph would say. I hope that helps. If it did, maybe hit the like button. Think about subscribing for more tips, tricks, adventures, reviews, all kinds of cool stuff. If it's related to off-road motorcycling or moto camping, I probably do it. But for now, and as always, I just want to say thank you very much for watching, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Thank you.